All right, Nick, let's talk about the LSU Tigers. LSU has been building a very strong team over the last few years. We've seen the results happen. I think they're about, turn the edge here in the coming year. But head coach Brian Kelly, he kind of came out and said some words. He made some comments talking about how LSU is doing things a little bit different. We all heard about Ohio State shelling out tens of millions of dollars to get all of the best players that they possibly could. And Coach Brian Kelly says, not that they're not going to use NIL, they're not going to do one thing in particular. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about this on the other side. This is from CBS Sports. It says Brian Kelly is casting a contrarian vision for how LSU will construct its football teams in the NIL era. With acknowledging that NIL is a part of this, the Tigers' third-year coach told WAFB, "We're not in the market of buying players. Unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for," Kelly told WAFB. "They want to be bought." Instead, Kelly explained the Tigers are pitching something other than just cash to potential additions as they seek to build off consecutive 10-win seasons entering the 12-team era of college football playoff. "If you like all the things that we do here in developing our players, bringing you in a championship program, playing in front of the best fan base in America, playing for championships, and having an opportunity for NIL, you should be a Tiger," Kelly said. "But if you just want to get paid, this is not the place for you." I think this is a really interesting comment by Coach Kelly. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts are. But LSU fans, before we hear from Nick, I'm curious, what do you think about the use of NIL? Do you think the Ohio State approach is the right way to go towards things? Or do you think the only way to combat NIL and for it to negatively affect football is to be like Coach Brian Kelly and to say, hey, we are going to use it, but we're not just going to straight up buy it. You got to want to be here first. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on these comments here?
Well, I think this is just one of the prominent coaches and prominent programs in college football just saying enough. This has gone too far, right? It makes sense that the players should have the right, if they're prominent enough, to make some money off their name, image, and likeness with sponsorship deals and similar opportunities. That just makes sense. And it makes sense for programs to try and use those potential opportunities to recruit either high school prospects or transfers, right? That all just makes logical sense. It's all well and good, but it's gone too far, right? And we saw from comments from Nick Saban when he was actually in a congressional hearing saying that the first comment parents have with their when it comes to recruits, they come in there and they sit there instead of asking what's going to happen with my son, what's his academics, what's his playing time, what's his living situation. It's going to be like they now ask how much is he going to get paid, like how big's the check going to be, and that's not what this is about. That's supposed to be part of it. It's supposed to augment everything else that goes into being a collegiate athlete, an SEC athlete, an athlete with the LSU Tigers, right? A football player. There's a certain amount of prestige and opportunity that goes with that. And the addition of NIL was supposed to be just that, an addition. And what we've seen this past offseason is that it's gone too far, and players and programs are trying to just literally sell themselves to the highest bidder, and programs are willing to just fork out whatever dollars they can to try and get the biggest five-star 17, 18-year-old kid when he hasn't played it down on college football yet. That's pretty ridiculous. And I think this is Kelly saying enough. Look, we're still going to use it. It's still a valuable tool. And I still think players should be allowed to use the tool when it makes sense to make more money for themselves and their families. But we're not going to just buy players. We're going to sell them on the entire package of what it means to be an LSU Tiger. And it's the right strategy to make, right? You don't want to bring in guys that are just mercenaries, because that's what's happening in college football. We see it all the time. We're seeing guys come in for a month and then transfer out to a different school. We're seeing guys come in for a year, transfer out, a year later, transfer to another school, right? It has gone on too much. And it's been too big of a problem in college football. And I love the fact that Brian Kelly is coming out and saying this, because while it's a message to the college football world in general, it's really a message to the recruits and the transfers. He says, listen, if you want to come here and just be a merc and just try and make the most money possible for a year or two, not the place for you. Go somewhere else. Go to Texas A&M like they were under Jimbo Fisher. New era under Mike Elko is different, but that'd be a great example of that, right? Go to another program, go to Ohio State. They'll just write you a massive check, right? But if you want to actually build and develop yourself personally and athletically here in Baton Rouge, we want you here, and we'll try and find a way to get you some NIL money to augment that. But if you're just coming here for the check and that's it, this ain't the place for you. And I think having that mentality, having that approach will attract the right kind of people, championship caliber athletes to LSU.
Yeah, Nick, and I think this is the only way that NIL is going to be combated in college football. I think the rules are kind of just skewed to where it's going to be kind of hard to reverse things to the way that we want them to be. But I think if these top tier teams say, hey, enough is enough, there are opportunities for NIL here. You can make some money, but you got to want to come to the school first. We're not just going to throw the cash your way whenever you want it. I think of the most prominent example I can think of is Jaden Rashada, the top tier quarterback who just bounced around from school to school to school, ended up at Arizona State, but really just seemed like he was going to schools who could offer him the best deal. And then if he ever got a better deal, just hops up, leaves in the portal, goes somewhere else. I just think that this is not the way that things were meant to be. And I think head coach Brian Kelly is seeing that. He knows the prestige of a school like LSU. He knows what they can bring to the table. And being a leader in Power Five teams by coming out and openly saying this, I think he's going to lead a charge. We're going to see some schools start to follow suit where they're saying, hey, not that there's not opportunity for NIL here, because there is. We've got a lot of great donors. We got a lot of good things at the school. But that's the thing. You have to want to come to the school first, and then those opportunities will present themselves to you. I think that it's like you said. You said it perfectly. It's supposed to augment everything. It's supposed to be a part of things. It's not supposed to be the whole thing. I think we need to go back to the days, like you said, which wasn't that long ago, where parents are saying, hey, what does your school have to offer academically for my son? How are your coaches going to treat my son? Well, what is he going to do? Is he going to get playing time, et cetera, et cetera? Nowadays, if all they care about is the money, what is football going to come to? And I think this is just Coach Kelly combating that and going in the right direction. I commend him for it, and I'm glad that he's taken the stand and openly said this and just said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Deal with it. I love that attitude, and I think it's going to be the way to get college football back on the right course.
And by the way, just one final point. It's what's right for the kids too, right? I know it sounds weird saying this, but the reality is there's no 17, 18-year-old kid that should be making their most important decision of their entire life up to this point, where they're going to go to school based on whether they're going to get $500,000 or $550,000 in NIL money. That's not, you're at a point, these kids are to develop themselves. You're not supposed to maximize your earning potential at 18, 19. That's not how this world works. That's a terrible incentive structure that we've put on these kids, right? You're supposed to use the college experience, whether you're going for athlete, academics, or both, to get better, to improve yourself, develop a set of skills that allows you to maximize your earning potential, whether it's playing professional football or professional something else later on in life. You're not supposed to max out at 18, 19. And right now, what's going on in the NIL world is basically telling these kids, it's like, yep, this is it. This is the most money you're probably ever going to make. Most of you guys, this is it. This is the best it's ever going to be. That's bad for them. It's bad for the programs. It's bad for college football, but it's bad for the kids too. So not only is what Coach Kelly doing here what's right for LSU, and I think will work out well for LSU in the long term, but I think by setting the standard here, he is actually doing a favor to these kids and their families, actually going back to the roots of what they're supposed to using this opportunity for. All in all, I think this is a great move by LSU and a great move by Coach Kelly, and I think it will pay big dividends for them in the long term.
Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, health records, even your relatives. It's all out there. That's why we use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows us which data brokers are selling our information and automatically submits opt-out requests for us.
Cleaning up our information not only reduces the amount of that stupid spam we all get, but it also protects us from hackers who could use this information to help them access our social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Aura also does much more to protect us and our families from online threats. We also get features like antivirus protection, VPNs, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. That's really key. One location, get all this great stuff. It's really easy to set up. And the best of all, we get everything at one affordable price.
You may already have one or two of these tools already, but not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. Aura is always on doing the hard work of keeping us safe so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. We value our privacy and we also value yours. So go to aura.com/SMI college to start your 2-week free trial. Again, linked in the description below. Go to aura.com/SMI college to start your 2-week free trial today.